part of the Rewind Fest, DXB, the biggest 80s and 90s music festival. And this is 22nd of Feb in Dubai. We are really excited that you're part of this lineup, you and Brian together. It's going to be brilliant. I feel like you're going to bring the party vibes, Keith.
Well, that's what we try to do. Myself and Brian have never taken ourselves too serious. Yeah, we love what we do. We're on tour at the moment in the UK. We just had a sold out night in the O2 in London on Saturday, and we played Basingstoke last night. We're having a little break on the UK tour, which gives us the ability to be able to come down and perform at the Rewind show on the 22nd in February. So we're very looking forward to that. The weather over here in the UK at the moment is raining and it's cold. So we're very excited about putting our golf sticks into the bag and heading down to Dubai to sing and perform and entertain and party and play golf.
Perfect. And getting a little bit of a tan whilst you're here.
Absolutely, that can't hurt.
No, exactly. It's going to be a really, really good night. And the lineup's brilliant as well. So, like Tony Hadley, Midge Ure, Katrina, Toya. The mix is going to be fab.
The mix is great. I mean, they're all 80s, and I grew up with all of them. I love them all. They're heroes of mine. Obviously Brian and I are more 90s and noughties, so we're kind of the baby. We're the babies on the set.
It's brilliant though, because there's going to be such a great mix, which I think everybody's going to love. And Keith, like you said, I mean, you're in the airport now. How has it been like over the last few months? Because obviously we've got to mention the Boyzone documentary, which everybody's talking about at the moment. So you've got the Boyzone album, just got the most number one, isn't it? Now the most downloaded album.
Yeah. After all these years, it went back to number one after the documentary came out, which was kind of bizarre. Nicely bizarre. Very very welcomed. It's I suppose nostalgia is alive and well, and the documentary certainly has reminded people of Boyzone. Back in our day, there was no social media, so nowadays, when you're in a group, people know where you are, what you're doing, what country you're in. They know everything about you. But back in the 90s, if we were performing in the United Kingdom or in Ireland, people just thought we were on holiday in Dubai or Barbados. They didn't realize we were working in Germany or Belgium or Sweden or Denmark or some part of the globe.
Yeah, so you've had both sides of it, Keith. Which one would you honestly prefer without the social media or with it?
Do you know what? It's a very difficult question to answer. The music business is a very different place now. Back in the 90s, people would go to their favorite record store. As soon as your album or your single would come out, they'd buy a CD or a DVD, depending on what you brought out. Nowadays, people just don't do that. Nowadays, they just download, illegal download, they stream. You got Spotify, you got Apple Music. So, the massive revenue of the music business is now gone. I mean, all the revenue in the music business now is in live performances. So, you need social media to market and to PR that. But I don't know. I mean, it is a huge invasion of privacy as well with social media, and there's a huge amount on the generation of today suffering from huge anxiety over trying to be the best version of themselves, comparing themselves to people that are putting up shopped photographs of themselves, and it's not real at all. And with artificial intelligence now, you really don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what's real and what's false. So I think the reality and the real, and the honesty of the 90s without social media had a real nice flair to it.
Yeah, it did. But I know what you mean because you can't not be on there, can you? Because you've got to use that platform to promote your gigs, the albums, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, we do use it now. Brian and I, even though we're the youngest on the stage in Rewind, we're still past the generation of understanding. I'm completely computer illiterate. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, am I?
I'm quite amazed. I actually got my phone to work for this Zoom call this morning. Um, but you have to try to move with the times, and TikTok is a huge platform now for launching new artists and new music, and for guys like us bringing out new music. We've new music at the moment on the radio in the UK. It's doing very very well for us actually. Myself and Brian are writing a new album at the moment, and our second single has just been accepted onto Radio 2 for the fourth week. So it's we're delighted with that. We're very excited. It's like, I mean, we're in the business 30 years, but to hear your new songs being played on the radio still to this day, even with all technology, how it's moved, it's still great to hear your music on the radio.
And it's brilliant to see because talking to social media, I looked at your Instagram this morning and how the gigs, I mean, I feel like Boys Life is just going from strength to strength to strength. All these sold out gigs you've had recently. Whose idea was it, Keith, to put you and Brian together?
I did. I put us together. I was acting. I'd kind of taken a bit of time out of the music business, and I was concentrating on my acting career. And I was doing a play in the West End of London in Trafalgar Studios for 6 months back in 2015. And I was coming out of that play, and I loved it. It was a terrifying space because when you're on stage, you have to help people see past Keith Duffy from Boyzone or Keith Duffy from Coronation Street. You have to help people see the character that you're portraying in the particular play that you're doing at that moment in time. And it's a much more difficult ask for me in that regard. But I love it. I love the fear of it. I love owning the character. I was doing a Billy Roach play, an Irish play called A Handful of Stars, where I come out of retirement after being a boxer and I go back in for one last fight and I get beaten up. And it's a super play, but like I'm going on stage with 10 and 12-page monologues. And when you've got, in a small space like that, you've got the whites of people's eyes just literally staring at you. And, it's very unnerving and it's terrifying. And, you don't get take two. When you're on live theater, you get one chance to get it right. And I just realized for whatever reason, the fear factor of that really excites me. It really gets my adrenaline going, and I really love to do it. So I kind of felt to myself, what can I do next that I haven't done before that will give me that kind of fear? And I decided to try and write a one man play. I decided to try and write a one man kind of monologue for an hour or an hour and 20 minutes or something like that, which is something I've never done before. So I was researching it. I was looking into what kind of storyline I was going to base it on, and I met a guy called Des Bishop. He's an American Irish comedian. And I'm quite friendly with Des. And Des said, look, you're taking on too much. He said, you've had 30 years in the 25 years in the music business at that stage. He said, you must have performed with some amazing artists over the years. You must have some great stories from backstage. Why don't you give your fans an insight from your perspective of how your life was within Boyzone? So I started to write stories down and I remembered things that I had forgotten, like Luciano Pavarotti sending his private jet to Dublin to pick me and Boyzone up to bring us to Modena to perform with him on stage for Pavarotti and friends. The opportunity we got to work with U2 on The Sweetest Thing. We brought Words by the Bee Gees to number one, our first number one in the UK, and we got to perform with the Bee Gees. And over the years we performed with B.B. King and Joe Cocker and Gloria Estefan and Mariah Carey and Ricky Martin. And all of these performances had stories behind them. So I was writing an autobiographical show instead of a play. And I was going to go and sing a few songs and tell some stories. And I was getting very excited about it because I thought I'd get like a residency in one venue. And it meant I had some sort of stability and routine in my life that I wouldn't be touring constantly. But when it actually came to the crunch of booking the dates, I couldn't get a residency. I had to do a tour. I'd done a deal with the Hilton Hotel Group globally, and my performance was to be in their function room. So ranging from 300 or 400 people a night up to 1,600, 1,700 people a night, a huge amount smaller than the Boyzone days of 30,000 a night. But at the same time, in a theatre respect, it was some really good audiences. But now that it was going to be touring and not in the same place, the whole idea of routine and the whole idea of stability was gone. And I thought, I don't want to tour on my own. And myself and Brian McFadden have been friends for years, back to '98 when Westlife used to open Boyzone show, but Westlife were our support act. And I met Brian because they came on the Boyzone tour, and Brian and I always get on well. And we've stayed in contact all these years. And I'd often see him on the golf course. And then he moved out to Australia. And when Boyzone were promoting in Australia, I'd meet Brian and we'd go for dinner. And he decided to move home from Australia. I met him on the golf course. He was doing a gig in a place called Whelan's in Dublin, which is a very renowned rock venue, a very credible venue. And to come from a boy band to be going to playing in Whelan's is quite cool. And I said, wow, I'll come and see you play. So me and my buddies and my son, actually, who kind of hangs out with us, we went to see Brian performing that was Christmas 2015. And he blew the roof off the place. And afterwards, we we're having a pint of Guinness, as you do. And he said to me, what are you up to at the moment? And I explained I was writing this autobiographical show where I'm going to talk about my experiences in the music business and sing a couple of songs. And he said, wow, I love that idea. I'd love to do something like that. And I said, hang on, man, you know what? I was doing it to do something on my own. But the thoughts of us two touring together is great because you love golf. I love golf. We could play golf during the day, do the shows at night. and Boys Life was born. And it was never a recording artist. It was Boys Life was the name of the show. It was Boys Life, Boys on Westlife, Boys Life, Stories, Laughter, and Music. And we put with 52 dates on tour, and they sold out in a day. And we were 3 nights in, and we realized half of the stuff we'd written down we couldn't fit into the show. So we did part two, and we went straight from the first tour to the second tour. And organically, it just grew into the two of us kind of performing Boyzone and Westlife songs. Then we went into the studio. We wrote an album. We did an album with the Royal Philharmonic. So we did all our favorite Westlife and Boyzone songs with an 84-piece orchestra. And that was our signing off to the two bands, respecting their music and moving forward. And now we're in the studio writing and recording all Boys Life new material. And like I say, Dancing with the Echoes is our new song, which is on Radio 2 at the moment, and it's flying. So here we are nearly 9 years later, and we're loving life. It's going great. And we're on a sold out tour of the UK at the moment. So we're very lucky and we feel very blessed at our age to still have the opportunity to do what we love to do.
It is incredible, and that is such an incredible story as well, Keith. Thank you so much for that. And do you know what somebody said to me actually once? I love Keith and Brian because when you go onto your talking to social media again, when you go onto your Instagram, you can tell that you genuinely love what you're doing on stage. Because you know, some performers you can see they're just going through the motions, whereas you
Yeah,
guys,
no, our show is great fun, honest to
yeah,
God. Everybody's loving it. Even the critics are loving it. Every write up we've had has been fantastic. We don't take ourselves too serious. You know, we understand what songs need to be done, with a solid tone and a serious tone. And then for that, we know what part of the show to make people laugh and have. Look, if you come to our show, I promise you, you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll dance, and you'll sing. And if that's not a good night out, I don't know what is.
that is the ultimate night out, Keith, and that is what we are looking forward to on the 22nd of Feb. You guys at Rewind at Blah Blahs. It's going to be brilliant. I love the bit in the chat in between that you do as well. It's not like I said, it's not just the songs, is it? You're giving us like a glimpse of your background, what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, we listen, it's never that structured. You know, the set list is quite set. We change it from time to time. But Brian and I bounce off each other so well. I mean, we're like a married couple. We argue, we fight, we get on, we laugh, we have a good time together.